Welcome to Black Woman Leading the podcast. I'm Laura Knights, your host and the founder of BlackWomanLeading.com. Today in this solo episode, we're talking about resetting your career with intention. Now, if you've been feeling drained, misaligned, or like your work no longer reflects who you are, if you are in a season of change and you want to move forward with clarity instead of chaos, and if you are ready to do the hard work and the head work of deciding what comes next, then you need to keep listening. Let's get into it. This podcast amplifies the needs and experiences of Black women leaders in the workplace with a holistic focus on three core areas: leadership development, mental wellness, and relationship management. Our ultimate aim is to help Black women learn, heal, and grow in their leadership capacity. Okay, so welcome to Season 8, Episode 28, Resetting Your Career with Intention. We are in the home stretch of Season 8, a season we named Leaning into Joy. And I want to take a moment before we dive in just to acknowledge we have covered so much ground together this season. We have talked about activating joy, honoring our stories, rethinking resilience, setting boundaries, reclaiming our bodies, defining our executive presence, and so much more. And we've heard from women who are doing remarkable things: clinicians, strategists, authors, coaches, all coming together around one central idea that joy is not a luxury, it is a leadership strategy. And now, as we near the end of the season, I want to sit with you in a different kind of space. Because here is what I know to be true. Before you can lean into joy, sometimes you have to do the work of clearing the ground, of getting honest with yourself, of pressing pause, not to give up, but to regroup, restore, and realign. And this is what today's episode is all about. Today, we are talking about the career reset. Now, I want to acknowledge the moment we are in at the time of filming this episode. A lot of things going on. Over 600,000 Black women have been laid off in recent months. DEI initiatives have been dismantled. We are in a whole age of AI. The workplace for so many of us has shifted in ways we didn't ask for and didn't anticipate. And so I want to speak to two women who might be listening right now. The woman who is grieving, who worked so hard for what she built and feels like it has been taken. Maybe she's been laid off or restructured and it's put her into a tailspin. And the woman who is honestly a little relieved, who needed this moment to give herself permission to finally pivot toward what she has been quietly dreaming about. And maybe the changes, the shifts have, pushed her into that a little sooner than she had anticipated. Wherever you are on that spectrum, this episode is for you. Now, a reset is not a failure. Let's be clear. A reset is wisdom. It is the decision to stop running on autopilot and start leading your life and career with intention. Here is what we're going to do today. I'm going to walk you through 5 areas of reflection that make up what I call the career reset framework. These are the same areas we built into our Black Woman Leading Career Reset Kit, which you can download for free in the show notes of this episode or at blackwomanleading.com on our resources and freebies page. The 5 areas are burnout and wellness, career clarity, mental wellness and self-care, relationships and support, and leadership identity. And at the end, we're going to tie it all together through the lens of joy, because that's what we've been talking about this season, because I believe a reset done intentionally is one of the most joyful things you can do for yourself. So let's get into it, okay? So before we jump into the framework, I want to start where the Career Reset Kit starts, with 3 grounding questions. These are not trick questions, y'all. They are honest questions. And if you want to answer them while you're listening, feel free to pause me, get you a notepad, a pen, or something that you can write with as you listen to the episode. I want you to sit with these questions, these reflections rather, as we move through this episode. So here's the first one. How am I really doing right now? If I were to tell the truth, mentally, emotionally, physically, how am I really doing right now? That's question number 1. Question number 2, what has felt heavy or unmanageable in my work lately? Or maybe it's just felt the energy, you've been de-energized about it. What has been that thing or the thing that has caused that? Take a moment, reflect, or write that down. And question 3 is, what do I want my next chapter to feel like? Not just look like. How do I want to feel when I'm in the middle of my day, at the end of my day, looking back on my day? What do I want my next chapter to feel like, not just look like? Now, did you notice that last one? Not what do you want it to look like? What do you want it to feel like? That distinction is everything. So many of us have spent years chasing titles, salaries, and credentials, achieving things that look incredible from the outside. And let's be clear, they are incredible. But you still feel a little hollow, a little disconnected on the inside. And we want to pay attention to that. A true career reset starts with feeling. It starts with your body, your gut, your nervous system. All the things that my girl Blessing Uchendu reminded us in her earlier episode, that nervous system is really running the show, whether we acknowledge them or not. Now, I want to call out here, I realize I'm not necessarily talking about that your career has to be your passion or your purpose. That is a privilege if that is the case, right? For some people, your career is just how you take care of your family and you do other outlets for your passion and your purpose. So I'm not conflating those two things. However, I still want to think about, even if your career or the things that you are doing for your income is only to take care of your family, are you struggling your way through it? Right? Is it sucking the life out of you, the soul out of you? It's still something we want to reflect on. Okay. It's still something we want to reflect on. So let these 3 questions be your anchor as we walk through each reset area together. The first area of the career reset is burnout and wellness. And I want to start there because none of the other work is possible if we skip this step. I want to share something from the Career Reset Kit. It says your next chapter requires restoration and recalibration, not just strategy. Read that again. Restoration and recalibration, not just strategy. We are so conditioned to reach for just the tactical solution, update the resume, refresh LinkedIn, network harder. And yes, those things matter. And we're going to come back to those. But if you are doing all of that from a depleted, dysregulated, exhausted place, the strategy will not stick. And so I want to speak to your humanity for a little bit because you are human, not a machine. Okay, you are human. You are not a machine. So in the kit, we look at 7 signs that might indicate you are in burnout. I want to walk through them slowly and invite you to notice your own body as I read each one. Now, to be clear, I'm not telling you to diagnose yourself because sometimes burnout symptoms and real medical diagnosable things like a clinical depression or anxiety can have similar systems. So if you're feeling any of this, it is probably good to go ahead and get a physical, get yourself checked out, just to make sure nothing else is happening biologically or psychologically. The key thing about burnout that's an indicator of burnout versus a real illness, burnout is usually has a stimulus that when removed, the symptoms decrease or go away. So if you're really stressed out and experiencing some of these symptoms around your job, and then you leave that job or you take an extended leave of absence or you go on a 2-week vacation even, and you notice that some of those symptoms decrease, that might be an indicator that it's a burnout caused by a stimulus that's happening. But again, if you're experiencing any of it, get yourself checked out just to be sure. Okay. So here are a couple of indicators. I want you to walk through 7 signs that might indicate you are in burnout, and just no judgment. Just notice your own body and really answer honestly as I read these 7 signs. Okay. So 1, I often feel mentally drained even after resting. 2, I'm more irritable or withdrawn at work. 3, I'm operating on autopilot or in survival mode. Like I'm just kind of blinders on going on the hamster wheel, if you will. 4, my work no longer feels meaningful or connected to who I am. 5, I feel pressure to perform, overfunction, or prove myself. In a way, this is not just talking about a spirit of excellence. This is in a way that's becoming unsustainable for you. 6, my body feels tense, tired, or overstimulated most days. 7, I feel isolated, unseen, or unsupported in my role. If you checked yes, you checked a box to 3 or more of those in your head and your heart and your body. Hear me when I say what you need is not another hustle. What you need is rest, care, and community. And here's the joy piece. Joy is not just a feeling that happens to you when things go well. Joy, as Dr. Pamela Larday reminded us at the very beginning of this season, is something we can activate. But you cannot activate something that has been completely drained. Okay. If there's nothing in the container, it's hard to reactivate it, right? A wellness reset is not self indulgence. It is the prerequisite for joy. It is the soil that everything else grows in. Once we have checked in with our wellness, we are ready to look at career clarity. And this is where the head work really begins. But remember, on those wellness checks, it's not just you doing a mental check. If you're feeling some of that, get yourself checked out, get a full physical, right? If you really are feeling a drag, if you have a therapist, if you have a mental health professional, or even just your primary care doctor, do a check in to make sure there's nothing biological or psychological, emotional going on for you. But let's talk about this career clarity where that head work really begins. So I'm going to ask you 5 questions here, and I encourage you to grab a journal. Again, open your notes app or download the full kit again and write your answers down in there. Because there's something powerful about getting these thoughts out of your head and onto a page. They become real, they become acknowledged, right? And something that we can actually do something about. So we're talking about career clarity. Here are a couple of prompts for you. My career vision for the next 12 to 18 months is, take a couple of minutes and write that down. If you close your eyes and you see yourself in that ideal space 12 to 18 months from now, what are you doing? What is happening? Write it down. Pause me if you're doing it while you're listening right now, so you have a moment to gather your thoughts. The work that energizes me most is, when do you find yourself most creative, focused, energized by what you're doing? Take a pause and write those things down. A role I would say yes to immediately if it were offered is. And if it's not a title, you can think about the content of the work. What would those responsibilities look like? What would some of the projects you work on look like? Take a moment and write that down. Here's another one. Something I'm underutilized in is. This is a clear skill set, either tactical or maybe it's your strategic thinking, but it is not being utilized to its capacity in your current situation. Take a moment and write that down. The biggest barrier between me and my next level is, what do you see as the real obstacle or the challenge standing in your way? Take a moment and write that down. Now, here's the clarity check. Look at your answers. What themes do you see? Is there anything recurring that keeps coming up? Even if it's a slightly different iteration, it is connected. What is loudly calling your attention right now? Take a moment and document that. Now, in my years of executive coaching, I've found that most people already know what they want. They just haven't given themselves permission to name it out loud. The barrier is rarely information, although that is a challenge sometimes. The barrier may be courage. It may be real constraints too. I want to be clear. There are real constraints we're working with, organizational, systemic, personal. So this is not, you just need to work harder. What we're doing is just acknowledging what is in the room with us so that we can name that thing and begin to create our strategy, even in spite of constraints, right? Even if there is a fence we got to play in for this particular season because there are constraints. That's okay. I'm not invalidating that there are real obstacles here. But I do want us to clarify them, because if we don't clarify them and name them, we surely cannot do anything to navigate them. So one of our guests in the last episode, Suzette Yasmin Rabatham, her episode was Moving Beyond Titles. She said it so beautifully just last week when we released her episode. The attachment to being validated by a title is an insufficient measure of who we are in totality. Career clarity is not about a title, it's about alignment. So as you answer those questions, I want you to think about, Even if you don't have a title, what are the skills, the activities, the type of engagements you will be working on? We can figure out what it is later. Now, we just want you to have some resonance as we're thinking about what you want to be spending your time, skills, energy, and capacity on. And that alignment that Suzette was talking about, that's joy in motion. When your work is connected to your values and your strengths, you do not just perform better, you feel better. And that is what leaning into joy looks like in the career space and the context of your professional life. So let's go to reset area 3. And it's mental wellness and self care alignment. I want to say something clearly. Your leadership cannot flourish if your wellness is neglected. That is not my opinion. That is a fact. We have heard it from clinicians, coaches, and leaders just this season by itself. Okay. So in the Career Reset Kit, we look at 6 dimensions of mental wellness and self care. And I want to briefly name each one and invite you to give yourself an honest rating from 1 to 5. 1 being the lowest score, 5 being the highest score on how you feel like you are doing in these areas. Okay. So I'll name them and you do the 1 to 5. Emotional safety at work. You can ask questions. You can bring your authentic self. And about that, I'm not saying that you give all of yourself that you give to your family and friends, but there is an essence of yourself that you can bring to work that you feel safe to do. That's what we're talking about, emotional safety at work. Support system and community. Do you feel supported? Can you ask for help? Do you have people who genuinely want to see you excel in your role? Boundaries with work and people. That could be around your time. That could be around your communication with people. That could be around how they engage with you from a respect perspective. Give a rating from that, on that, from 1 to 5. Coping and stress management. Do you have some tools, some activities, some ways to regulate that help you in stressful moments? Ability to rest without guilt, from 1 to 5. And time dedicated to personal nourishment, which we know from research, a lack of personal time is an indicator that often leads to a burnout experience. So rate yourself if you have any time dedicated to personal nourishment from a scale of 1 to 5. Now, here is the reflection question. Where does your wellness need immediate care? Look back over those areas I just mentioned, and the areas that are more 1 to 2, maybe even 3. What areas are emerging for you? And what boundaries or changes would feel genuinely liberating right now for you based on what you're seeing after doing that rating of yourself? Not just helpful, but liberating, because that is what the season has been about. Not just managing, but actually experiencing the liberation that comes when we stop sacrificing ourselves for roles and relationships that do not honor us in return. You know, I'm like that Denzel gif that's on social media. Like, I'm getting something out the deal. I'm leaving up out of here with something, right? So we're looking at are we getting something back from these roles and these relationships? That's what we're talking about under the context of liberation. So self-care is not a bubble bath, but it is setting a boundary, right? It is the no. It's the morning that you protect for yourself before you give it to everyone else. That's self-care too, right? So let's keep going. This is just giving you some intel, some data for you to decide what's your priority as you are deciding how to craft your reset going forward. So reset area 4 is all about the relationships and your support network, because Black women leaders often carry the weight of being the go-to for a lot of people without having our own robust support system in place. And that's not true for everyone, but I've seen in my work that is often true for a lot of the ambitious leaders, not only at work, but in their community. They are the ones that are the shoulder to cry on, but they are often not always asking for that help or that support in turn, or they don't feel like it's there for them, right? So I want you to think about your professional ecosystem right now. Who are your mentors? Who are your sponsors and advocates for you at a senior level? Who is a peer support for you? Who are your allies and champions? And this is a rough network map that we're doing, a network kind of brainstorming map. Take a moment there and just jot down those names. And I'll say them again a little and pause in between so that you can write some things down. Who are your mentors? Who are sponsors and advocates for you at a senior level? Who is your peer support people or person? Who are your allies and champions? People that'll amplify your work, that'll talk about what you did in the team meeting, right? In a positive way. And as you do that reflection, a bit of a harder question is, where are the gaps? Was there any point there where you didn't have someone to write down? Or have you found yourself writing the same person for every kind of role that I mentioned? Now, I'm not mad at a multi-use a multi-use partner here, but we also don't want to exhaust someone else's energy and time because they are our everything, right? So the harder question about where are the gaps might highlight some vacancies you have and some areas you may want to intentionally build in your network map. Now, in the kit, we identify 5 common gaps. You might need more mentorship. You might need sponsorship at a senior level. You might need community with other Black women leaders. You might need stronger boundaries in relationships, in your professional relationships and interactions. And you may need more reciprocal, not one-sided, but win-win points of connection. And this is important, right? This support system is really critical. And here's what I do know. Isolation is one of the most dangerous things that can happen to a high-performing leader, not because you are not capable of doing it alone. You are, but it's you can go farther with the support, much more quicker, much more efficiently, right? And so, there is an old myth of just put your head down, work hard, and people will notice, but we know that is not the case. Your relationships and support systems are really critical as you advance. And in this context of what we're talking about today, kind of create what this reset might look like for you. Because leading alone costs so much more than it has to. Okay. As we go back to our season's theme of leaning into joy, joy is relational. It expands in community. It multiplies when it is shared. So if your support network has gaps, a career reset is a perfect time to address them. And a career reset is what we're doing right now, y'all. It's the pause. It's the pause. When the modem is not working on the internet and you push those 2 buttons, or you stick the pin in that little indented hole and it resets the system. That's the pause. That's what we're doing right now. Paying attention, not being in default, not just going like a machine or the hamster on the wheel, but pausing to reflect in these areas to see what is requiring my attention, maybe in a different way this season than I've had to spend time and efforts on it in the past. So we've arrived at the 5th and final reset area, and in many ways, it's the most powerful one, and is leadership identity. I want you to sit with 4 prompts here and take your time with each one. Pause me if you need to, okay? The leadership strengths I am most proud of are. Make some notes there. The areas I want to grow or refine are. The legacy I want my leadership to create is. This could be for your family and your community, your personal network. It could also be in your industry or in your organization as well. If nothing were holding me back, I would fill in the blank. Powerful prompt there. If nothing were holding me back, I would. And the last one, that last one I just said, I want to stay there for a moment. If nothing were holding me back, I would. What came up for you? And more importantly, what would it take to start moving in that direction? From your own intention, effort, to resources and support that you might need to start moving in that direction. The synthesis question in the kit asks, what identity shift is needed for you to step into your next level? What do you need to start visualizing yourself as? What do you need to start calling yourself? And this is where I want to bring in our Black Woman Leading Journey Map, because we have 3 phases to that: reflect, define, and execute. What you have done today and taking the pause of the career reset is the reflect stage. So taking that moment just to reconnect with yourself, name your needs, honor your story. And then from here, you take this intel, this data, to start to highlight what are the priority areas that I may start to work on myself, that I might reach out to support for. That's the defining, and the execute is the plan that you start to do. So the define and the execute phases are where things really take off. This is the work we do inside of our programs. And if you're not quite ready for a program, our conference where we start and trigger some of this as well. Okay. So again, would love to support you in that way if you find this is helpful and you might need a little bit more support. So remember, a reset is not about starting over. It's about coming home to yourself, baby. Okay. It's taking a pause, because different seasons of life require different things from us. And what was happening for you, 6 months ago, even last year, 2 years, 3 years ago, may not be where you are now. So the career reset is that pause. It's pushing that reset button on the modem to say, what's happening with me now? And where do I want to go forward? Okay. It's about coming home to yourself. And baby, that homecoming is one of the deepest forms of joy I know, to be right aligned with yourself and to feel like you're on the right path. So today was a little bit of a different episode, mostly me facilitating some reflection for you to get you started in that reflect piece of this career journey map that we talk about at Black Woman Leading. We've covered a lot of ground today. You've done burnout and wellness assessments, career clarity, mental wellness and self-care, relationships and support, leadership, identity. You've reflected on as well. 5 areas and 5 invitations to get honest with yourself. So I want to close this episode by coming back to where we started with our season's theme of leaning into joy. We imagine joy as something waiting for us on the other side of a grind. But what this season has taught me is that joy is not a destination. It's an ongoing practice. It's an ongoing experience that we create for ourselves. And this career reset is just one of the most kind of joyful acts of self-leadership I think you can engage in, because it allows you to pause and center yourself and say, what's really going on with me? Let me do a self-check, okay? Because it's saying you matter enough to pause. You matter enough to be honest. I matter enough to choose something different, something better for me, even if someone else says it's okay. And that is not defeat, that is wisdom, and that is leadership. Okay. So again, if you'd like to walk through this, we have a structured kit for you. You can download it right in the show notes wherever you are listening or watching from. And it's also available again on our website at blackwomanleading.com under our freebies section. Work through the 5 areas with honesty, grace, and without judgment, y'all. Thank you for spending this time with me in this episode. If it resonated with you, share it with somebody in your life who might need this reset right now. And again, we're on all streaming platforms. Leave us a review, y'all. Tell a friend. Help us to amplify this work we're doing. If you want to connect with us, we are at Black Woman Leading. Woman is singular, on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. You can, again, of course, visit our website at blackwomanleading.com to learn about our programs and events and things we have going on. You want to connect with me, LinkedIn is where I'm most active, at Laura E. Nice, of course, and I'm at Laura E. Nice on Instagram as well. And then finally, if you want to learn about the work we do inside of organizations to help them develop their leaders and teams, check out our corporate site at niceconsultinggroup.com. We would love to connect with you in any of these ways. And until next time, be well. Black woman.